Devotional. The peace of knowing God. Psalm 46:10. Be still, and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. Exalted I will be on earth. In a world filled with noise, worry, and busyness, this verse is a call to calm, to recognize that God is in control and that His sovereignty is an unshakable source of peace. When we stop and reflect on who He is, we find true serenity and security. This divine invitation reminds us that in the midst of all that is happening in the world, the most important thing is to acknowledge God as our sovereign and trust in His power to be exalted above all nations. 1. The invitation to stillness, a space of peace. Be still is not only an instruction on physical calm, but also on inner stillness. In our daily lives, we are constantly busy, rushed, and distracted, but the stillness to which God calls us is an opportunity to step away from anxiety and rush, and focus on His presence. It is a reminder that we do not always have to be active or in control, but we must learn to rest in His sovereignty. This stillness is not passivity, but an act of faith that allows us to connect with the God who rules over all. 2. Knowing God, the key to our trust. The verse says, "And know ye that I am God." The stillness we are invited to experience only makes sense when we know God's greatness. As we pause, we reflect on who He is, our Creator, Sustainer, and Redeemer. When we understand God's majesty and His control over everything, we can rest easy, knowing that He has everything under control. Knowledge of God brings peace because it reminds us that nothing escapes His power and that He is faithful to His promises. 3. God's exaltation. His name will be glorified. The verse ends with a glorious promise. I will be exalted among the nations. Exalted I will be on earth. Although at times it may seem that circumstances are chaotic or that evil prevails, the truth is that God will be exalted. Its sovereignty is not affected by temporal events. The history of mankind has a purpose, and God's name will be recognized and glorified throughout the world. This promise gives us hope, because we know that in the end, He will be glorified and that our peace comes from recognizing His authority over everything. Practical applications. 1. Look for moments of daily stillness. In the midst of your activities, set aside time to be silent before God. Pause, take a deep breath, and remember His sovereignty. Let His peace fill you. 2. Know God more deeply. Take time to read the Bible, pray, and reflect on God's character. The more you know Him, the calmer your soul will be, for you will know that He is faithful, powerful, and wise. 3. Trust that God will be exalted. When you face difficulties or injustices, remember that, in the end, God will be recognized as the sovereign King over all nations. His will be done, and His glory will be manifest. Conclusion. Psalm 46:10 calls us to stop and recognize who God is. In the midst of a world full of noise and worry, true peace comes from knowing our Creator and resting in His sovereignty. When we understand that He is in control, we can rest assured, confident that, in the end, His name will be exalted and His will prevail. Today, as you meditate on this verse, may you find the comfort of His presence and the assurance that, in the midst of it all, He is God.